remember one day when returning from school in the afternoon, maybe about 3 o'clock, and I walked in the house and I said, "Hi, Grandma." And she was sitting there as usual in her big chair in the living room. And the first thing she said, "Well, how was your day today? Did you get those timetables?" She thought that was the greatest thing in the world, for her to have the opportunity to continually teach me the times tables. And of course, I was about 7th or 8th grade then. We were finished with the times table. But anyway, Grandma liked to sit and talk, so I sat down on the floor, and she looked at me and she said, "I know you want something to eat. What do you want?" I said, "Grandma, I'm not hungry today, but I want to ask you a question." And she said, she liked to say shoot when you talk to her like that, you know. And I said, "Where did you come from? Where do you live? Tell me about when you were a little girl. Can you do that?" She said, "You always asking questions, and the wrong questions at that. Why you want to know where I come from?" I said, "I don't know. I've never been anywhere. I never hear you talk about that, or when you were a little girl." And you said, "I've been past that stage for so many years." And I said, "Well, anyway, talk to me." And she said, "You know, I was brought up down there in Cyprus." I said, "Cyprus? Where in the world is Cyprus?" She said, "You would know, but it's a little hick town down the road there." But anyway, it was just a little place that we stayed in. I said, "What kind of houses did you live in?" And she talked about the little wooden houses and the little trails in the woods and stuff like that. And I said, "Grandmama, you lived in little trails, along trails and stuff like that?" She said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, tell me more." And she continued to talk about she had to watch the children walk to school when they went to school, she said. A lot of times they didn't go to school because they had to stay home and help us farm. Farm? What kind of farming? Well, we had a few little horses and cows and chickens, and we even had a garden. A garden? Yes, and we raised watermelons and corn stalks and stuff like that. I said, "Well, we don't have that kind of stuff here." He said, "You don't live in the country. You live here in Pensacola." I said, "Okay." But it was a long time after then that I realized that I would really like to go to Cyprus, yes. And of course, I got that opportunity many, many years later when my husband and I got married. You won't believe we spent a day of our honeymoon in Cyprus. I know it sounds hard to believe, but we didn't have much money anyway, so we just decided we'd ride up and down 90. And we stopped in Cyprus on our way. And before we could even get out of the car, the chickens was all around me. I suppose they thought I'd come to feed them, but they were just a chucking along, and we just running around trying to get out of their way. But believe me, we had walked almost a mile before we met a human being. Yes, that's how dead it was. But finally we came up on a little wooden house, and there was an old man sitting on the front porch. And it so happens to be the old guy that used to come and visit Grandma. And we called him Cousin Ed. Cousin Ed would come and visit us and sleep on the floor with us because we didn't have that many rooms, you know. But anyway, he'd wake up in the middle of the night. Miss Mary, you know, that was my grandma's name. The chinch is biting me. I know you guys don't know what chinches are, but we do. We would have, do you remember when we had to take the bed mattresses out on the weekend and spray them and clean them? And you know, just a few years ago, I heard they had arrived in California. You think we sent them out there? But at any rate. And I heard too, a few days ago, that they were here in Pensacola again. Wonder what happened to them, but they disappeared. But at any rate, there was all of these funny kind of things going on down in Cyprus. But get back to Cousin Ned. Cousin Ned was so glad to see us because he hadn't seen me since I was a little bitty girl. And of course, he was happy to know that I had married and we were on what we call a honeymoon. So Cousin Ned decided he would take us through his house. And guess what? Where did he keep the watermelons, eggs, and all that kind of good stuff? Under his bed. I could not believe that all of these things were under the bed. Everything he had to eat was under the bed. Now, he didn't have a refrigerator because they were still buying ice by the blocks at that time. And Cousin Ned told me they couldn't get any ice but once a week. That's when the Iceman came along. So anyway, that's where all of us got started, in a little town called Cyprus. And I challenge all of you here today to go to Cyprus. And you know, be careful, because you may miss it when you pass it. There's a little sign in the road that says Cyprus. So, come on, let's see what happened. Well, there was a beautiful young woman that lived in Cyprus. Her name was Mary Smith Thompson. And she married a man named Promise Thompson. And of course, Promise was a preacher. And Mary was a kind of a homemaker. And they had 8 children. 8. But you know, very few records were available to kind of recreate this history of our ancestors. But one thing we do know is that Mary Smith Thompson was married to Promise Thompson. And where either of them was born or their families is still unknown. Therefore, the purpose of this project really is to sort of create a new beginning of unity and record keeping for the present and future generations of the Thompsons and Killette families. Thank God for the varied resources that we have today. None of us knew 10 years ago the power of the cell phones and computers. But Grandma Mary and her husband Primus lived a very humble lifestyle. Since it was during the early days of Jim Crow, most of all, their livelihood came from farming and gardening. And even though Grandma's husband was a preacher, no indication of his pastoring was ever revealed. However, there was always a strong faith connection in all of the 8 children, which we can also see even in the latter generations. Formal education was not even a priority because no special schools were provided for blacks or even Negroes at that time. Now share with me those 8 children. The oldest was A.V. Thompson. Now, I remember A.V. Thompson a long time ago when I was a little girl, and he came to see my mama. And that was the last time I believe any of us saw A.V. Thompson. And then there was Willie Thompson, the second oldest child. Then John Thompson, Promise Thompson, Louise Thompson, Hattie Thompson, Viola Thompson, and Ola Mae Thompson. All 8, 4 boys and 4 girls, all started out in the big town of Cypress. And as we move forward, we note that Promise Thompson and wife Lily, who is deceased, is the oldest living family members. And we're just delighted tonight to recognize him as our dearly beloved of these families. The 8 siblings of Mary Smith and Promise Thompson lived most of their lives around Cypress, but they began to move out as they grew older. Records doesn't tell us where they went or when they left Cypress, but I do know that Promise Thompson married Lily Thompson and they had 7 children. Willie Thompson married Cherry Cunningham, I believe it was, and they had 9 children. Louise Thompson married Matthews Killette. They had 5 children. Well, they had 5 children, but 4 of them were born in Cypress, and the youngest was born in Pensacola. Now, Hattie Thompson was married to Joseph Mercer. They didn't have any children, but they adopted one of their nieces for a little while, of course Linda, and she's here tonight, into their lives. Viola Thompson was the youngest girl, and she married Dennis McMillan. Of course, they had no children, but she fostered some children for a while. Ola Mae Thompson was married to Uncle Solomon. I suppose some of you may have remembered him, but he lived in Panama City. And then she married George Mitchell. He lived in Jacksonville, and the 2 of them married and moved on to New Jersey. And they stayed there. They stayed there until he died, and finally she moved back to Pensacola, Florida. You know, many of you may not remember some of these 8 children, but just to clear your mind, only 1 of the siblings that was female had children, and 2 of the boys had children. And of course, that was Willie and Promise. And Louise was the only one that had other children. She had, she had 4 girls and 1 boy. Louise was the oldest girl that Grandma had, and as you can see by the doves, that she's deceased as well. And she was proud of her children, of course, and you can see that she enjoyed playing with them, tossing with them, just having fun. And, with her family. She loved her family so much. And as we go through, we'll take a look at some of her grandchildren, her children and her grandchildren. That's Bernice, the oldest girl, who is now in Newark, New Jersey. And of course her daughter and her first, second, maybe 4th great-grandchild, okay? I may be wrong. Somebody's going to correct me, I'm sure, when this is over. But Bernice and Vicky and Joyce. And the little girl has part of my name. I think her name is Jordan Marie. She's about 2 years old now, almost 2. Great group. And of course, you can see that they're enjoying themselves. It seems like all of these girls enjoyed smiling. Look at those beautiful teeth that they have. And of course, we have a few little graduates here with Joey and her baby boys, okay? By the way, you know, little Joey here, the one you see in the right corner with the green on, that's the mother of all of those that you are looking at. And she is just recently started back to school as a principal of a high school there in Newark, New Jersey. I think some of you remember her as a little girl, okay? Well, that's my sister Elise and her husband. Of course, they're both deceased. And her name was Elise, pretty girl. And this one represents her oldest son, who was a twin, born to Elise and Monroe. Monroe McLaughlin was her first husband, and she later married a Morgan. Let me just tell you a little bit about this guy. He is so smart, the twin. He's very smart and loves to read, and I'd really tried to talk him into going on the Millionaire, but I guess it's time out for that now. And of course, look at these. These are great. These are some of Lisa's grandchildren. And I see one of her boys in the background, Kenneth. And forgive me if I can't recognize all of these young people, but I tell you what, they're wonderful kids and we love them all, okay? And there's Piccola and her husband, who is deceased. Many of you remember Piccola, the great basketball player at Washington High School, I'm sure. I think she still holds on to that. And of course, there's Taylor with the boys. That's Butch and Gary. Hopefully you'll see them a little bit older in the project. Yes, that's Gary and his clan and his lovely wife, Jennifer, and the boys. And it so happens that all 3 of these boys have finished school now, and when I say school, they finished college. The one in the top middle picture, I believe is, that's Jonathan. Let's see which one. Jonathan, and the girl in the middle is Lindsay Marie, that is. And the other one is Matthews. We got plenty of Matthews in his family also. The one on the right started at Yale University. He finished there and was interested at first in becoming a lawyer, but I think he's changed his mind now, and I don't really know where he is now, but I believe he is here. Congratulations, Jonathan. And of course, we have Matthew on the end. He's just finished, and I believe he was in engineering school. And the young lady in the middle, the sister Lindsay, she was on a professional soccer team. Now I think she's got a job, a real job. So maybe she'll tell us where she is now before she leaves, okay? And here's the big clan again. I think that's all of them showing out there and showing their teeth and looking good. Congratulations to all of you. Now, we're so sorry that the father of this clan is not here, but that is Butch. Many of you have asked about Butch and his children. Well, these are they. He has 4. And they're all grown up now, so these are just children. That was the best we could do for pictures. So anyway, hopefully we'll see them very soon. They're all grown, they're all finished school, okay? And of course, that's the man. That's Junior, sometimes called Matt, and his lovely wife, Beverly. And it's been about 2 years now. But we know that everything is okay with him. And it just looks like all of these young men, I don't know what they call them now, the Big Five, I believe, the Killette boys and the Big Five. And we're so proud of these young men, and I think they look good. They look like they're getting ready to sing or do something. I wonder, can they sing, really? But they're all together. And Mama's in the middle of them. Mama and Daddy is in the middle. But those are the 5 most wonderful nephews that I have. And here they are again. I can tell you one thing about this group. They love to party. They enjoy having a good time. And maybe as you take a look at this further, you can say that you'll get a chance to meet some of them while we're here. You see, I told you they like to party. When I asked for pictures, they sent everything they were doing partying, all the way from Hawaii to Destin to Pensacola Beach, and yeah, they just love to be together. This is one of the, I think this is the baby boy, Wendell, and his wife in the middle. And of course, their son, who was born on my birthday. How about that? Well, now, I don't have to tell you who this is. I know you know who this is. That's once called Mary by my brother. He always called his sister Mary, so that's me. My husband, Dr. Young, and my one and only son, Jay Young. Yes, that's me and my one and only. How about my grands right there? He's 4 years old. He's going to be 5. And that's the 4 of us at the bottom of the page there, and just having a good time. And my oldest granddaughter is Chastity, and she's a senior at FAMU, hopefully graduating this year. Now we move into the Thompson families. That's Cherry, Aunt Cherry, who is deceased. Her husband, Willie Thompson, her husband, okay? Now look on the right, you'll see we have Louise Rose, and she's here. Louise Thompson, deceased. Bernadette Anderson, Linda Thompson English, Selena Thompson, Peggy Olivia, Anthony Thompson, deceased, and Willie Thompson Jr., deceased. Of course, David is here, but he may not be here tonight. Very special group of young ladies. I don't know where you can find a better looking group of young women than these. They really has it going tonight. And look at Cherry, she looks like one of the girls, doesn't she? This seems like, you know, we got kind of mixed up in some of these pictures and we didn't know where they went, so if you see some in the wrong place, just count it as whatever, you know, but we have a group here from the Thompsons group. And I hope all of you enjoy looking at them because I cannot name all of them. That's why we needed this beautiful family reunion. I cannot name all these, okay? So let's move on and you have fun doing so. Now this picture was one that I thoroughly enjoyed looking at. I could at least name 3 people on this group. So if and I'm not going to try to name them at this time, so it would do me well if any 3 of you will come and touch me when this is over and say, you ought to know my name, and tell me who you are if I can't identify you. I'm going to try to identify you tonight one by one, okay? Okay, let's see. These are the most beautiful children, too. Look at these precious children on this picture. They look like some people I know, too, so I know this is a part of the Thompsons clan. Oh, yes. It looks kind of like a party group, too. They look like they're having a good time at school and at playtime and just having a ball. And now we have an entrepreneur in our family, and that's Butch. Of course, if you haven't had a chance to test his wings, it's located on Pace Boulevard. Try our buffalo wings from our family entrepreneur. Thank you. And of course, we're still with the Thompsons, and that's Andrette, the oldest daughter of Primus Thompson, who is deceased. And of course, we have one other sister in this picture, and that's Sheila. Sheila is the one with the white dress on to the right. Sheila is standing there hugging a young lady who's very special to me, Nashonda. I think that's right. I call her Shonda. But anyway, she's a beautiful young lady and likes to really have fun, especially with her cousin Marie. Good to see you. Sorry you're not here tonight. As we can see, lots of Thompsons and grandchildren, and Miss Tammy in the bottom, she is also a granny. All of these are grands of Primus Thompson. And believe me, they are really, really wonderful kids. And there is the man himself, Mr. Primus Thompson, and his daughter and 2 of his grandchildren seemingly enjoyed a birthday party. And finally, we come to Nashonda again and her friend. Sorry to know that she's not here tonight. She's in Mexico or somewhere, but at any rate, we'll miss you, but we have your clan with us. Have a good time. coming together in the name of love, my life, my legacy, my family. Today we are celebrating our family with a new beginning, getting to know those whom we love. May God be with you until we meet again. Grandma, today is a new beginning, creating a legacy of coming together. For we realize now that the best thing in life is to hold on to each other.